Self-quarantining.
The quarantine order.
Quarantined in their...
Held in quarantine.
Quarantine.
The quarantine in place.
Quarantine for the required 14 days.
Hey, what's up, people? Welcome back to another episode of Quarantine Talks. I am your host, Jay Carrington, aka JC, your friendly neighborhood Negro. And yes, I know. It's been a while, but I don't think that I have to tell y'all that in 2022, life be lifing like a mother. Anywho, in honor of Trans Awareness Week, we're happy to post an interview that I did with my friend, my homie, trans activist, Gatekeeper Adrian. In this interview, we talk about the basics of trans identity, everything from pronouns to proverbs, because we take it all the way back to continental Africa and the relationship that we, specifically as Black people, always had with trans humans. Then we delve into both mine and Adrian's journeys into self-acceptance, the complex relationship trans folk, especially Black trans folk, have with the LGBTQIA plus parentheses, quotation mark, hyphen, punctuation community. White folk really just keep adding letters and words to this. This is a community or an algebraic equation. And then we talk about the violence that trans people, particularly Black trans women, face on a daily basis and ways in which we can help protect our sisters. We also break down the way that male gaze and patriarchy helps to complicate the relations between the queer community and the hetero community. And last but not least, Adrian tells us one thing that we should know about trans humans in America. This interview was taken in February of 2021, and since then I have had the pleasure of being around many more trans humans and unlearning a lot of the harmful rhetoric and ideals that we have been taught. And the only reason that I can claim even a minutia of growth is because I did the uncomfortable thing of injecting myself into communities of people that don't look or love or present in the way that I do. And I hope that this interview can help you to do the same. All right, let go.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to another episode of Quarantine Talks. I'm your friendly neighborhood Negro, JC, and today I enjoy. You've never heard me introduce myself.
I'm here for it. You know.
I am joined by my friend. This is my birthday twin, y'all. I didn't realize we had the same birthday. It's my birthday
Capricorns
twin.
in this bitch.
Exactly the best in the fucking zodiac. This my birthday twin by the name of Adrian. Adrian, go ahead, introduce yourself, where you're from, what you do, all that good shit.
My name is Adrian. I also go by your friendly neighborhood Gatekeeper. That's why I wasn't too pressed with the name. Great
boss,
I see it. I am a visual artist. I'm an activist. I'm a non-binary femme. I am a painter, a lover, an artist in every sense, an organizer, an activist. I also run our Black Pride here in Rochester, New York, where I'm from. At least for like the next 2 months before I move, but you know.
Okay.
Just a general gist of what the fuck I do.
And so what this gatekeeper, what does the gatekeeper mean? Where did you get this from?
Oh, so like years ago when I first got into organizing, I got like extra black. Mm-hmm. We always talk about our history and things like that. And so I'm always like, you run into the hoteps first usually. And they tell you about blah, 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 Africa, this, that, the third. And I'm like, okay. Yes. Queer and trans people I know have been around since the dawn of time. Absolutely. And so where is the history on us? Where are the writings on us? And so I came across this book by Malidoma Somé. And he had the concept of gatekeepers. So he was an anthropologist who went and studied these tribes in West Africa, specifically the Bagara tribe. And they talk about how queer and trans people back then, or even currently now in a lot more rural tribes, they were known as the gatekeepers. So they were like the bridge between two worlds, the spirit realm and the physical realm. And so their roles in our society were to make sure the community in and of itself was kept in balance with like the spirit world, the natural world, and then the community, and make sure everything's living in harmony and shit. So they were very respected, highly respected. He has a book, and his partner, so Bufu Somé has a book, like community and spirit and something like that. But they both break down those things. And then again, doing further research on other Black people in other parts of the continent, it's just like, oh, okay, T. But then I thought about also like what's my role in community and things like that, and it just kind of, or where I always see Black, queer, and trans people end up anyway. And it's in that same kind of gatekeeper-ish role. We're always helping the fucking heteros keep themselves together, do this, that, and the third, but also in the history of like organizing, we're always on the front lines. We are always in the midst of resistance and trying to liberate ourselves and all our peoples around us. So,
right.
Where it comes from.
That's funny. I didn't know that. It's very similar to like the Pacific Islanders, Samoan culture and stuff like that. Native American culture where you have two spirits and so I didn't know we had that too. I just know that I know. Remember that conversation that we had about when I was talking to a Hotep nigga and I was like, I'm gonna just break this down to you because you remember I was telling you about how they said like homosexuality is a European invention or something, and I was like, okay, so now wait, where did all life come from? Africa. So now gay people are people. Yes. So now if gay people are people and all life started in Africa, then 2 + 2 = 4.
But also even the nature of colonialism, it doesn't, there are a lot of things that doesn't hold up ever.
It doesn't.
Like,
it doesn't. Because it's made up.
Even the nature of and the nature of white people. White people, one, don't invent anything. They steal everything. So if anything, they only invent new ways to oppress people. So homosexuality and trans is not foreign to the African continent. Transphobia and homophobia is. And again, if you're talking about taking over and conquering a people, whether you're talking about the Mongolians, whether you're talking about white people, whether you're talking about anyone who's conquering people, what is the other little one? Napoleon, any of them? The first thing that they always do is they rid a people of their culture and their spiritual system, and they indoctrinate them with something else. And that makes it a lot more easier for them. Right. So it's just like, baby,
it's hard to kill somebody when they got your son. You're like, damn.
Oh. And they're just gagged because queer and trans people, again, we always find a way to liberate ourselves and just be like, what's this shit that's going on? And we've managed to survive along with the rest of our people in so many elements of our culture. So how to be.
So okay, in the spirit of that conversation that we had 2 weeks ago. So I would like to ask you, I know you said it before, but like, can you explain how you self-identify and B, explain some of the terms? We don't have to go all the way down the rabbit hole.
Girl's history, all right. So I'm just a non-binary femme, so I'm a very femme-presenting. All the mass niggas know what it is because they be all that no fats, no femmes, nonsensical stuff, but y'all, they still need to be decolonized in that kind of way. There's that. And non-binary means I'm neither man nor woman. I'm both and then neither at the same time. I just don't identify with either of those things. It is part of the trans spectrum. It's under the trans umbrella. I'm just not trans in the cisgender sense where I'm like, was born male and I'm transitioning to female or vice versa.
Okay.
It's
so wait,
okay,
so that's what I was with. So can a non-binary person be cisgender?
No.
No.
That's not the point. We can present cisgender, but that doesn't mean that my pronouns will change. So even if I come up in a hat, some jeans, some this, and like some locks on my head and a whole full face of beard, that doesn't invalidate any of my non-binariness. That should not invalidate my pronouns or anything. It's not rooted strictly in aesthetics. Okay, for me, aesthetics is very important to my expression for me. That's not necessarily true of other people. That's not true of everyone.
Okay. And for anybody that's listening, cisgender means a person that is comfortable in the sex that they were born with and the gender that they were assigned to. You know what I'm saying? I would identify as a cisgender male. Like, I'm happy with my gender. I'm happy with my sex. I don't want to change it. I'm cool. I like it. I might dye my hair sometimes, but that's all I got. Like, I ain't really, That's it. And so, like, okay, on the spectrum, okay, so we have, you said it's under the trans umbrella, right? Mm-hmm. So what else would be inside of non-binary?
I mean, it depends on how you identify, how you break it down. It's really like a self thing, but it's like you have gender non-conforming, non-binary, trans femme, a lot of really outdated terminology. There's a whole bunch of shit. They always add a whole bunch of stuff under it. But really just people who don't fuck with like the gender binary, quite frankly. However that surfaces or whatever that looks like. A lot of people are cool with just the man-woman shit. And there are tons of other people who don't fucks with it. And usually those people fall under the trans umbrella.
Okay. And so when we talk about like misgendering, like for you, what would that mean?
So like if you, a lot of people will see me presented like this, like, hey, sir, and I'd be like, okay, bitch. But that's not. You're going to disrespect me, I'm going to disrespect you. If I don't know, like, child, some people, some people I have leeway with, but others, it's just like, but if I don't like gendered language in the same kind of ways, it's like, how can we find different ways to address a person if we're not going to use their name? And it's not like, and you from the South, child, like you in Atlanta, like, baby, that ain't foreign to y'all. Like, hey, y'all, how y'all folks doing? What they doing over there? Like, it's the same shit. People act like it's some kind of foreign concept, and it's so damn difficult. And it ain't. It's really easy.
Okay. And so, like, but what are your preferred pronouns?
They and them. So all the new
they and them. Mm-hmm. They and them. Okay. Because, like, I remember, like, so this is difficult for me sometimes because it's like I want to pick. I guess it's the nature of things to pick either or. You understand what I'm saying? And it's like yesterday, even we was talking, day before last, we were talking on the phone. I was like, nah, my man, bro, whatever. I called you back and I was like, wait, can I say that? Is that okay? Like,
sibling is always a good one. I always prefer that one.
Okay. You said who?
Sib, like sibling. Like this
Sib.
is my sibling.
Oh,
I have X amount of siblings.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's just like and like the other part of this conversation, the other part of the reason that I wanted to have this conversation is because like everybody thinks that a lot of people think, especially the straights, like they think that like just because we're all under the same house that we all in the same room. Like, nah, we in the same house, but it's different rooms, it's different floors. You got penthouse, like, you know what I'm saying? And it's like there are things. There are things that and this is probably coming to as a surprise to some people. I don't know why, but like, like surprise, I'm not hetero, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know all of the things. You understand what I'm saying? I'm learning and I'm still, processing that. And it's like, I know we had a conversation about straight people and you not liking them. And I understand that.
How you trying to put them all on blast? Oh my goodness.
Are they not?
I don't prefer to spend most of my time around them because
exactly.
it's just like, again, like Black people, like that's part of how we learn things, right? Like I think a lot of times, like, my MLK talked, since Black History Month, I'm gonna do that. Since MLK talked about it, Malcolm X talked about it, like, we talk about, I'm integrating my people into a burning house. Like we know white supremacy. We know white people. We have been indoctrinated with it for generations at this point. There's very few more things I really want to know about white people because so much of it oppresses me and my people. But there's so much I don't know about Black people. Like, again, Black people, there are Black people everywhere all around the world. And I know you know this as a world traveler. Like, there are Black people on every continent, in every space, in every country, and damn near every city. Those are the people I'm really interested in engaging with and trying to figure out what we are. Because, again, Blackness is not a monolith. So I know queerness isn't a monolith, transness isn't a monolith. And so I'm not just going to assume that everything I know, Badu says, a man that knows something knows they know nothing at all. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there's always more, there's always nuances to things and people's experiences, and based on their environment, their circumstances, their class, their this, their that, all of these things, it can produce a very particular kind of experience. And I'm very interested and I would prefer to learn about those kinds of things.
Right. And I it's like I always tell people, like, sexuality is fluid. Like, I've had conversations with people that are like literally just this last night, like somebody asked me, it was like, wait, do you still like women? I was like, I mean, I'm not going to turn down a fine female if that is what I'm into at that moment in time. I was like, I'm more fluid than anything else, but like, I have my preferences and what I do and what I don't. But it's like, if you can apply that concept to the actual act of having sex, then you can apply that concept to people. Because again, all of this is fluid. All of this is a spectrum. Nobody in my mind is completely on one side. There's a little nudge room.
Because that was the case. It's just what Grace Jones said at the best. She said, "Child," they asked her, they were like, "Oh, do you find other women attractive?" She's like, "Of course I find women attractive. If I didn't find women attractive, I wouldn't find myself attractive. I would look up in the mirror and say, I'm ugly every day. Like, ew, what's that?"
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? But also, it's just, I think a lot of people do not answer. I know a lot of people do not ask them, and they don't interrogate themselves. We'll interrogate the world, we'll interrogate each other, but they do not know themselves. They don't ask themselves and question, why do I only believe in two options? And why do I only believe in things like left, right, wrong, like up and down and shit and across and over, front, back don't exist? Like, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like there are only ever two options in anything, whether it's gender, whether it's hair, whether it's food. I don't care what it is. But interrogating and asking those questions is half of how I got here. Just asking myself, well, why do you believe that? Why do you like that? And half the time, half of that shit is tied to a lot of other things, whether it be trauma, learned behavior, this, that, and the third. And most people just don't question it or interrogate it, which is why half of them end up just being really Aggie Christians. We're not going to do that today.
Which actually brings me to my next question for you. Is like, when did you realize that you were like non-binary, or like, realize that you kind of preferred to toe the line instead of being on either side of it?
I think probably like a couple of years ago, I really started actualizing in that kind of way. But then I look back, once I got there, I look back on my life and I said, oh, we always do this. I've always been in these in-between spaces, right? So when I think about like how I actualize in my life, being in between situations, whether it's in between two friends fighting, in between two different ideologies, in between all of these things, the gatekeepers, again, are people who are on the in-between, right? And then I'm just like, okay, this just makes complete and perfect sense for me in my life. So that's when I was just like, okay, see. And again, doing reflective work. Every year I do reflective work on my whole life, whether it's the year or this, that, and the third. And I go back and I'm like, oh, so like the shit I know now or what I'm into now makes so much more sense when I have new context for it. And then I look back on my life and I'm like, okay, this makes a whole bunch of sense. Why didn't I do this like years ago? But y'all, if you learn, you do better.
I'm having that realization as I research more into BDSM culture and all of these things. I'm having this realization about myself. I'm like, oh, I have always been this thing. I just did not know that I was this thing. And now that I know that I'm this thing, I can like kind of maneuver a little bit better in the world because I understand myself and my mentality better. You understand what I'm saying? Like, and then like, so talking about that, like, so I've had a very interesting, I'm not going to say I was like transphobic or nothing.
It sounds like you were. It's okay.
I wasn't though. Like I've never been outwardly mean to anybody. I don't believe in that. I do not. That's not. I don't. I try not.
I'm gonna let you explain it. Go ahead.
Yeah. I try not to fuck with anybody. If you don't fuck with me, I don't fuck with you. Now I might talk a little bit of shit because I'm a petty ass nigga from DC, and that's what we do. We joan all day. But like, I never really fuck with people like that. But like, so I was talking to a person one time, and well, we no longer speak because he's a fuck nigga. But he actually, it happens like that. So he actually put me on to the documentary Paris is Burning, right? Because we were talking about Pose, I think. This is a year or two before Pose that came out. Like, he's in the industry. So I think he was telling me something about it. And he was like, excuse me. He was like, have you ever seen Paris is Burning? And I was like, no, what the hell is that? And he was like, it's a whole documentary on like Vogue and the culture and this and that. And, like watching that documentary for me, like made me really understand. Cause it's like I was telling you, like, I have never necessarily associated myself with like gay culture. And that's just because I've always felt on the outside. Like I'm not a popular gay. I don't get along with a lot of gay people. Like it just never really was a thing. And so watching Paris is Burning, I'm like, oh, like, I'm like, it's kind of cool to realize like this section of the culture also belongs to me, right? Like, because I also belong to this culture. So it's nice to see that like represented. And it's like, as I become more learned and, and I accept more, I accept, first of all, myself for who I am. I accept other people for who they are. Why is my phone all the way back? So as I accept myself more and I accept other people more, you know what I'm saying? I realize again, you interrogate, like, why do I feel this way about this? Or what is it that might necessarily push me away? Why do I have this aversion to certain types of people? And it's like, I love trans people. Y'all are some of the most motherfucking non-judgmental people on the fucking planet. And that is like saying something in this community because gay people can be like really like judgy and messy. And I'm like, yo, trans people are so like, I know, I feel like you're going to grill me. I feel like you're going to grill me. I know you're going to get me. But again, personal lived experience. I'm just talking about, let me speak from my personal lived experience. But you know that the gays can be a little bit, lot of bit.
Oh, there's some of the most finicky, messy people I've ever seen in my life. Yes. At the same time, I also look at that as like, again, you have a group of people who have literally survived every kind of Holocaust you can imagine. Not only just from white supremacy and like systemic racism and the murders and lynchings that, Black people have faced over the last 500 years, but also a lot of the shame and hiding and abuse in their own families, churches, neighborhoods, schools, whatever. So a lot of those are trauma responses. Like, child, you can't, if anyone who has the audacity to live their lives authentically as is, a lot of times, and specifically when there are no names for it, and when people can't necessarily identify it because we've been so disconnected from our history, you gonna have some tough skin. You're gonna have some tough this, that. And again, a lot of this is proximity based, right? So it's just like when they try to say like Black people are more violent than anyone else. And it's like, no, it's just Black people have faced a lot more trauma on the regular, like every minute of every day of every hour. That, when you talk about that kind of trauma, it needs to be released in some form or fashion. And unfortunately, we end up releasing that on each other because all kinds of violence and all forms of abuse are usually proximity based. We're not the Ted Bundys of the world who are going to go and be serial killers and shit like that. That's not usually us. We usually, but that's all violence across all parts, all different kinds of people. You got Korean Americans, Chinese Americans. Like, who you think they beating up? Child, they usually beating up each other.
Statistically speaking, all crime is committed inside of the same socioeconomic group as the perpetrator, because that's just the way that it works. You know what I'm saying? You hurt the people that you're closest to, but period.
And again, and I do want to be clear that white people are still on every list, on every name, gang violence, murder, all the things you think that we are. White people are the leaders of it, and they usually leading it amongst themselves because there are just more of them in this country. And that's just a numbers game. But again, I look at that and I'm like, a lot of folks are, people think about like things like transphobia and homophobia. They think of it in terms of like, I'm not beating anybody up. I'm not hurting anybody. And it's like, it's not just that. These things, as well as they are very much more systemic, but at the same time, they are interpersonal. They are at the same time interpersonal. So like it's, people with their wild ass preferences. Like I mentioned before, like no fats, no femmes. Like, okay, so you femphobic, child. I get it. And they're like, oh no, I don't hate them. Like, but you do though, because if I wanted to make you list like why you don't find that attractive, like if somebody fine, they fine. Someone cute, they cute. Right. So what is it? And a lot of that ends up being like internalized homophobia or, proximity to, just like you got them coon ass niggas who be like all around white people all the time. And then they don't want to be around other Black people. It's like, it's your proximity to power, proximity to empire, proximity to privilege. I get it. Like, if you're that gay, if you're the token gay amongst your heterosexual niggas, you the one nigga who can go in the barbershop and key with all the niggas and da-da-da-da-da. But will you do anything if I were to walk in there in my wig and my heels and my this, that, and the third, and they start cracking jokes and shit? Are you just going to play along? Are you just going to be silent? Or are you going to be like, hey, we ain't even doing that shit. Like, the fuck out of here. Like, that's the solidarity that's always missing. And that's how I know that it's rooted in something else.
Right.
Which usually is, again, some internalized stuff. So,
and that's interesting because I've found myself in that situation, being the quote unquote privileged individual that I am, masculine, hetero, presenting all of these things. Like, I get to walk through the world with a different, set of whatevers than, someone like you. And it's like, and it's interesting because we're both authentically being ourselves, but then it's just one is more quote unquote bad persecuted than the other. So one person is, and for all intents and purposes, you way more of a real nigga than me because I ain't finna walk outside in no green wig. Like it's just that just ain't me. Like I'm screaming.
But that's usually the truth, and that's part of the thing of what, and that's also what I've learned too is that a lot of people just hate that. They have
they hate the audacity that you have at being yourself unabashedly. Like,
and they can't do that in the way that they secretly want to. And it might not be wearing a wig or this, that, and the third. It just could be, I can't even tell my truth. I can't even be amongst my friends and they say, oh, we don't like this color. Oh, yeah, I don't like that color either. No, and that's your favorite fucking color. Like, please. Are you kidding? Afraid to be the black sheep, afraid to be the oddball out. Like, I get it, but again, it's I always frame it back up to like the larger system that really tries to individualize everything and encourages like groupthink. It encourages it discourages people from having a difference of opinion. Like everyone likes to talk about diversity, but people really don't want diversity in that kind of way. Where it's
white people's idea of diversity is living in a white neighborhood with taco shops. Like I can get my ethnic food, but I need to be around other whites. Like that's that's white people's idea of diversity. It's really interesting. Like it's just funny.
Every time white people tell me, "Oh my God, I just did. I'm down for the things. I'm down for the quarter." And I say, "No, you're not," because I looked on your Facebook, and anytime you're at a family gathering, it's white as hell, and you never question that. You never question why this is so fucking white. You never, for the life of you, question. For me, I'd be like, "Child, this ain't my space. I'm going elsewhere where there are more folks like me." Because I don't like being the oddball out in that sense. I can do it, and I will always be myself. But I also don't like to have to be the walking encyclopedia for shit people don't understand.
Right. And that's the other part. That's the other part. That's the other part. Like because I've wanted to have discussions like these before, but it's like some people have made me aware that again, these are not things that I have to deal with. But like the trauma that people face, on a daily basis, you're essentially asking them to do this, like again, in a performative way, and it's like. That's not that's not like I remember specifically when we were in I was in Seattle and we were having this event and like it was like we were talking about racism and it was 3 white people and they all looked at me and I'm like, bitch, ain't nobody got time for this. Ain't y'all reading the same book? Like why I gotta explain? Like it's burden. It's a heavy burden to always be the one that has to be like, all right, this is why this isn't okay. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I do get that and I understand it. That's why I was like, well, at least in this sense, it's not a huge open forum and you're not talking to somebody like,
and I'm a willing participant in this. You asked me and I said, yes. And I consent to do so. So that's fine.
Right. And I asked you, and you're not talking to somebody that's completely ignorant or devoid of, of your tribe. Like we same tribe. We just, different.
Yeah, we don't drink together, hang together, tribe, please. Yeah. But that's also the thing, like people like these experiences and things like if you can read the books about it, but also like diversify your set. Like who are you around? Like I know a lot of these issues and a lot of these things because these are my friends, my family members, like people who are close to me. And I can't say that they're close to me if I don't know what the fuck is going on in their lives. Like, that's ridiculous. If I don't know the kind of shit they face, the kind of stuff they experience, and again, that's not so more of me, like, collecting this data about this broader experience. It's like, girl, what's going on with you? Like, child, this last week, this, da, 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 da. I'm like, what the fuck? Is this normal? Like, is this everyday? And, being concerned about the people I care about. And then, like, okay, how can I continue to censor these things, these issues, and this stuff? Because clearly it's happening again to the people around me.
Right. And why do you think it's so hard for people to like accept trans people, like of any skin color, ethnic background?
Well, I would say it's just a misunderstanding thing. Like again, like we're in they say America's the land of the free and home of everybody, and it's like, child, this is a very white.
Wait, like misunderstanding or ignorance? Which one do you think?
It's a willful ignorance. I'll say that because again, we are one of the most powerful nations. We have some of we have the most access I think we've ever had since technology and all this shit has come about. Like, baby, anything you want to know, you really can have at your literal fucking fingertips. To the point where it's on your watch. Like, you can look for this information if you wanted to. But people have a willingness to, again, anything that makes them uncomfortable, they shy away from. That's just human nature. There are very few people who walk there are very few people who walk towards danger or walk towards things or sit in uncomfortable situations. And most people just aren't like that. So it's a willful ignorance, but also, again, like, it's not like it's an everyday personal choice. Some people literally just don't know. Some people aren't in proximity to people that, well, that's not necessarily true. They may not know what a trans person is, or may not have the language to describe these kind of things. So when you talk about somebody's trans, like, trans, what's that? And then you explain it to them, like, oh, like so and so and so and so and so and so. And they're like, oh, okay, so I've seen these people my whole entire lives. I just never had the language to explain it because, again, information in America is disseminated in such a actually, in most countries, they're disseminated in a very specific kind of way where it's like we mostly get it from television, we mostly get it from whoever's popular, we mostly get it from music, pop culture, this, that, the third, and whatever, and most of that shit is incorrect. And it's just now changing. But even still, I would say, again, Black trans people, particularly Black trans women, are still the most vulnerable people in the world. Like, they are constantly being murdered day in and day out, and no one cares. No one really gives a fuck other than other trans people.
Right.
No one says anything. No one, and again, those kind of things stem from that kind of violence and things. That stems from literally, again, people making transphobic ass statements like, "Oh, what's that? A he, she?" Or "You not getting somebody's pronouns right?" And this, that, and the third. It again makes that shit okay, because I equate that to like letting white people say nigger, and I'm just like,
not during Black.
You say it around me, you get punched in the mouth.
Right. Not ever.
There's no discussion necessary.
Especially not during Black History Month. That is not okay. Like, you want to.
Maybe not during any month. Not during any hour.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Not during any month of the year, but during Black History Month, don't you even fix your mouth to even think about it. Don't just even. What about? No.
I don't care if you're singing a song. I'm gonna look at you.
Right. That's why I don't go to rap concerts. There's too many white people, and too many white people saying nigga for me. I can't. I can't fight all y'all.
That's gotta suffer with themselves and be like, "Child, you got all these, you letting all these white people say nigga,
right.
nigga, jumping around the stage."
How do you think we, speaking about that, the violence perpetrated against like Black and brown trans people, like how specifically trans women, like how do you think we best protect and safeguard and keep them, protected? Like, I know one of the main reasons I think is, you have sex work. Like, I'm happy for the advent of the internet and OnlyFans and all of this shit, because it makes it safer. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you don't have, with some people, you know what I'm saying? You have the option.
OnlyFans, I'll give that to maybe, but child.
I'm going to say the advent of the internet to empower content creators of all walks of life. You know what I'm saying? To actually take charge of the things that they're doing, not put themselves in situations where they can't control. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I have an OnlyFans, I'm inviting someone to my house that I've met, that I've arranged, versus going off with someone somewhere doing, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's made sex work safer. And I appreciate that, because I like porn. We talk about this. I've supported several Black businesses on OnlyFans. But
that's everyone.
how do you feel like it's the best way to protect Black and brown trans women?
So I don't necessarily think the internet has made it safer. I think it's made it a lot more dangerous, in the sense of, because again, like, everybody doesn't have an OnlyFans. Everybody's not comfortable about those things. You also have to think about things like revenge porn, people saving those videos, sending it to jobs, sending it to this, people seeing a certain thing, and then people, being stalked, harassed, this, that, and the third. So in that kind of framework, I don't necessarily think it's been being safer, maybe from less personal interactions, if that's what they're going for. But and catfishing and shit too, like, child, just the fucking point. But one of the ways, again, we protect people is, again, we love them proudly, we love them out loud, but especially for like other like cisgender folk, it's like, grab your homies. I'm not going to the barbershop, but nigga, you are. And you know what they saying, you hear what they saying. Mm-hmm. And it's like, child, we all know half them niggas in their trade anyway.
Trade means niggas that like niggas, but on the low, like
on the low.
The low.
Like, child, but it's just, they won't do it out loud for whatever reason. And, sometimes it's not safe for them, or it's whatever the case may be. That's another conversation too. Like, I don't believe in outing people, but I do think something needs to happen around trade. I'm not sure what it is, and I'm not sure if it's necessarily like running a list of or a directory or something. But these niggas are crazy and out of control.
Not a directory. My God.
Something, because it's like these niggas are out of control. Like, they're out of fucking control. But again, the way to protect Black trans people is, again, to love them out loud, proudly, but also like trump any transphobia. Like, really, like, have a hard stop for that. Like, there are businesses I don't support. There are people I no longer talk to. There are places and spaces that anywhere I'm in, I'm like, baby, we don't do that here. And you can take your ass on somewhere else. I don't give a fuck who you are, how much money you make, or what you dress in. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And it can like, oh no, I'm just kidding. Like, you're not just kidding though.
Right.
Because again, if it was a white person just saying, "Oh, look at that dark monkey over there," you're gonna be mad.
Right.
Oh, I'm just playing. You wouldn't accept the same shit either, or maybe you
Right.
would, and maybe that's part of the problem. But again, I'm not taking that bullshit, and that's part of how we begin to do that. But again, for people who hang out with these straight niggas and these straight people who have these really ridiculous attitudes, and thoughts and quote unquote opinions that aren't hurting anybody, like holding their feet to the fire. Like, I don't talk to them. Like you said, I don't talk to too many straight people. I don't really, and I don't choose because it's too much for me. But for the people who spend their days and times and weeks and hundreds of hours around these people, what conversations are you having with them? It's the same thing I say to white people. Like, you around all these white people, what conversations are you having with them? How are y'all holding them accountable to the bullshit that they be thinking? It's crazy that y'all sitting here being besties and having drinks. You supposedly a liberal or neoliberal, whatever the fuck, and you sitting next to a fucking Klan nigga because he your cousin, or you sit next to a Trump supporter because he's your uncle, or you went to kindergarten together. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
like, at some point, you have to draw a hard line and be like, I'm not fucking with that. So if you want me in your life, you can either figure that shit out and switch that shit up, or if you want to just be you, okay, you'll be over there, I'll be me over here.
As long as you don't be disrespectful, you can be you,
right.
whatever corner of the universe that you so choose to be.
Everybody has the right to do that. But again, if you come over here and you're trying to bang, baby, we can bang if you like.
Right. Because what you said that night, he was like, "Don't be forget." Like, a lot of these niggas be forgetting. Listen, you still fight the nigga. Like, at the end of the day. Oh, you didn't say that? Because you look like though. Like I stand. Like you look like
you're assuming that just because I present this way that I'm not going to defend myself.
Right.
You're assuming that I ain't packing nothing. You're assuming that you can just put your hands on me and do what you like. But again, that's rooted in patriarchy and sexism. And you think that just all feminine and women figures that you can just do whatever and treat them however you fucking please. And when again, it's just like any other woman in a leadership position or anything of the sort. Niggas have a hard problem with it. It won't necessarily be overt, like I have an issue with this, but it's like, okay, so when Tom was in charge and he made directions, you ain't question that shit. But I got in charge, all of a sudden you got a comment and a question and a this and a that for it. Did you ask yourself why that is?
Right. I felt that way before too. I've explained that to people. I was like, I don't really think when it comes to trans people, or specifically because you don't really transmit it. Hold on. Female to males.
Transmit.
Yes. Transmit. Thank you. So don't have nearly as much issues as, trans women. And it's like, when I think about, let me finish. And so when I think about that though, it's more or less like, okay, well, the world has an issue with women, and by women, proxy of femininity. So it's like, since the world has this issue, it's not really one of those things where I was talking to somebody one time and he said, do you ever wonder why two women together is celebrated and two men together is so hated? And I said, no. He said, you got to think about it. The world at large doesn't really care about women. So no one really cares what they do. But when you have two men together, or you have two masculine people of appearing together, it strikes a chord, because it's like, oh, wait, we got to pay attention to this. This ain't right. What are y'all doing? This isn't, and I was like, oh, wow, I never really, put two and two together to think about it in those terms before.
And I think that's
it's a little problematic.
Look into that. That's true. Yes.
It's a little problematic, but it's point to it.
There's a larger concept of, or there's a larger notion again of what systems are we fighting, right? Mm-hmm. So like things like patriarchy, the belief in just natural male dominance and all that other shit. Knowing again, even across history, that is not true or accurate. Mm-hmm. So, but even thinking about that, like if you think about two women or two femme presenting people together, like that is literally, no one necessarily cares about that. But to a degree, there are a lot of lesbian couples I know who face violence on the daily as well. So people actually do care about it. They very much do. But because they are women or femme presenting and they're not men, their narrative get shut out. Again, very similar to when you think about Black Lives Matter and how most of the people who are uplifted and elevated are Black men, because they're men and people care about men more than they care about anybody else. And when it comes to two men together, and also it has to do with the male gaze, right? Male desire. So the idea of two women together is just pleasing to the male gaze. So again, they're more likely to get aroused by such a thing. Cisgender heterosexual men will get aroused by that kind of stuff more or less than they'll be disgusted by, as opposed to two cisgender men getting together, in which case, part of why they hating it, most people should just mind their fucking business. Like, if it's not you, if you ain't fucking or being fucked, it shouldn't make a difference for you. But the people who have a problem with it, usually the same issue is that it is sparking in them something, or it is revealing something about them that they cannot necessarily express themselves, and they just don't want to see it because it reminds them of these things. Like, child, please. Anybody, and there's like, a history of male-on-male contact, whether you talk about any military force across the world, across history, these niggas been fucking. But it's always been in that kind of like warrior context where it's like, or prison context. Oh, when we in prison, that's one.
You know who I'm thinking about our
when
mutual
we get home. But
when
you get home, it's like,
no, when you talk about the military, I'm thinking about our mutual friend. That's why it's funny to me.
Child, yeah. I heard some stories. I said, bitch, period. But that's true. Like, I think of like people think of like even the movie like 300. Like, them niggas was all fucking.
They was fucking.
They was fucking.
They was fucking
holding that gate for however. Like, child, please. Niggas, men are very simple in that kind of way. Cisgender men, they have their sex drive, and if they want to fuck, they're gonna fuck something,
right.
And they don't really care what it is. Their thing is about who I'm fucking, impact how I'm received in the world. Will it impact my power? Will it impact my? And it's also also men think about sex in terms of power. It's not about sex. It's not about passion. It's not about feelings. It's about power. It's about dominance and a whole bunch of other things. Which
everything is about sex, but sex. Sex is about power.
Power. And again, that's a very male gaze of things. Like, child, other people. Because again, we were talking the other night. I'm like, child, I have sex for my pleasure. I center the things that I want to feel, the things that I want to experience, and the kind of experience that I want to have. I don't give a fuck about no damn power. The nigga will probably give a fuck about power because, again, it's always about some kind of dominating something. You can't dominate your rent. You can't pay your rent. You can't do this to third. You need to dominate something. Especially, and again, with Black men, it's very particular given how the system treats people. Again, that's how we go into the abuse thing and domestic violence and this, that, and the third. Just, again, dominance and this, that, and the third, and feeling like a man.
Moving on to lighter topics. So, did you start Rochester Pride? Like, or was you a part of that team? Like, how did it happen?
So Rochester Black Pride, I started because Rochester Pride, the first one, it was just really white. Like, it's white as hell. Like most major prides, most major corporate prides, they're really white. And again, they're not rooted in the same thing that Pride was rooted in. The original Pride, first Pride was a riot. Marsha P. Johnson, we were there. It's major. Stormy Delivery, like, child. Black and brown trans people saying fuck the police, getting into a whole brawl with the police because they were tired of the persecution and oppression they were facing. White people get in front of it. Now it's just a party on everybody's main street somewhere, sometime in a cute little parade. But again, the very people who started it were shunned and moved out of it, and now no one cares about trans issues. They only care about getting married or whatever their white fantasy is allowing them. So I started that because, again, Black people were not centered, and they had offered me, I think they were, why don't you come just get a seat on this pride table? I said, baby, Black, queer, and trans people they are not a monolith either. We are a whole spectrum. We are a whole galaxy of people with many different interests and talents and this, that, and the third, looks, sizes, whatever the case, and abilities, whatever the case may be. And I said, we deserve the chance to explore that fully and wholly and without restraint and without somebody talking about what about the white people or what about these people. I don't give a fuck about what they got going on. If they want their own pride, y'all got their own pride. It's white pride. Mine's Black pride. And they were just really mad because it really solidified that. Like, there's a Black pride, this other one must be white pride. I'm like, y'all, I ain't saying y'all did. But I started after that.
How does one do, like, what goes into the making of that? Like, how do you even begin to organize something like that?
It honestly started like most Black Pride. There are over 100 Black Prides around this world. There's ones in Paris now, London, and then like a whole shit ton all around the country. It honestly started with a party and a barbecue. One day during
Very
Pride,
Black.
a party and food.
So Black. Goddamn.
The first Black Pride, which was started in LA like over 30 years ago, almost 40 years ago, it was started with a barbecue at the beach. Like, it's just niggas love food and they like coming together and they like having community. The same for the one in Chicago, DC, Atlanta, like all of them, like the same kind of circumstances. And it's like, you know, a party and a barbecue, and it's just like, I want us to come together and just enjoy each other's company and just like, let's center ourselves and just have some real Black ass joy. You know, the first one was really successful, and then we kind of picked a date that was our own, and it's kind of, I brought people. I just brought a bunch of people on. I brought all my friends on. I brought people who wanted to get involved on. And I'm just like, how can we just raise money to actualize other people's ideas? Because, you know, I have my ideas, but other people have all these wild ass other ideas that I would have never thought of. And so it's been really fun, though.
What is the date for?
It's usually in September, but, you know, last year was supposed to be our 5-year anniversary, but, you know, Rona done messed up everything.
Yeah.
It's usually the weekend before Labor Day or after Labor Day. It depends on how Labor Day falls sometimes, but it's usually around that time.
Okay. Isn't it the same?
No. It's not Atlanta Pride. It's not Labor Day weekend. It's either before that or after that.
Okay.
Because we try to stagger all of our prides so we don't like run into each other.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, let me know and I'll come up. The first Pride I actually ever went to was the one in New York.
See, and New York City Pride or Black Pride?
New York City Pride, the big one. Yeah, there's pictures on my gram for that. Like, yeah, and I actually got the march. I was like, oh, this was fun. I wasn't expecting this.
That march was long as hell. I think I went to the World Pride 2 years ago in 2019. Child, that wasn't.
That was what I was at.
Oh, that was the first one, child. That was fun.
Yeah,
I was acting.
That was my first. That was my very first one. That was my very first one. My homeboy. Shout out Noel. My boy from London came. He was in the city, and he was like, "What you doing?" And I was like, "Nothing." He was like, "We're coming to Pride."
Because I feel like I met him. No shade. I definitely feel like I met somebody. I met a couple of people from London. Is he like tall and bald?
No, Noel got. Well, he cut his hair. At that time he had hair. Like Noel's had hair for a while, but he cut it recently. Kind of stocky. I'll show you. Yeah. I'll show you his gram. But yeah, like that was my very first Pride. I was like, oh, this is fun. I'm coming back. This is fun. I was like out there marching, playing with titties. It was nice. It was just, it was nice. It was just.
Fucking cool. It's nice to be around your own people. Like just around your own people. Right. Everybody's just free. Ain't nobody judging nobody. Just like, child, if you want to do that, baby, do that. If you want to do that, baby, do that. Do that. Have fun. Just don't hurt nobody.
It was very fun. It was very like, you know what I'm saying? It was just like, oh, and I always wonder like, well, why don't I ever be like, oh, well, I should do this more often. Like, this is cool. Like, this is a good experience. It was a fun time. You know what I'm saying? I say that for everybody. Like, everybody should go to a Pride. Like, black, white, straight, gay, whatever. Like, just go to a Pride. It's a cool ass time. Like, I was like, this is a barrel of monkeys. I love it.
I don't like that analogy, but I see what you're
I
saying.
thought about it as I said it now, but we here. It's America. Tell me more about Brotherhood Productions. Because I stand.
Shit.
I stand. I love your I love your creativity. I love your outfits and all that shit. Like I stand, like I'm a fan. So
thank you. So my last job, my first and last like full-time job was this whack ass job at this non-for-profit. It wasn't whack. I enjoyed myself. I did my thing, but child, again, working for a white organization that's really racist and stuff is just not for me. So I quit my job one day and I just started this production company, me and my 3 brothers, and we I did the video stuff, video photography. My other brother did graphic arts. My other brother did music production. My other brother did photography. And so like we just came about it. And again, it's about centering Black people and changing the way Black people are just presented and seen in the media, because there just ain't enough Black people. I mean, there ain't enough diversity of Black. There's so much more now, which I live for. But at the time, I didn't feel there was enough. There wasn't. And I still don't. Like, there can still be more. I need multiple networks of nothing but content with nothing but Black people, from top to bottom, from the writers to the camera people, the lighting people, the stylists, the set designers, the grips, the this, the that. I need everybody to be Black because there are so many of us and we're so talented and stuff. So that's really what, I do. So it's just a visual arts kind of production company. We do everything just Black. We do everything from like business shit to like music videos. I guess now I'm more so really interested in, again, just Black, queer, and trans people. Like, again, really wanting to explore the diversity of our own community and the different voices that come to the table. Because again, every trans person ain't the same. Every lesbian ain't the same. Every butch queen ain't the same. Every mask nigga ain't the same. Every this, that, and the third. Like, everybody's different.
Mm-hmm. Eden said a lot of words for a lot of people that might not know, and I'm not going to. But, we ain't gotta go there. We ain't go.
Please don't know anything I say, please. Just know that when you think of LGBTQHIJK LMNOP, like there is so many more.
Alphabet boys. The alphabet boys.
White people keep adding all this other stuff.
All this other shit. There's a plus sign now. I'm like, what the fuck is all of this? What is all of this?
I'm here for the people I really am here for the people. Like, if that's how you identify and you love using those terms and things, I'm here for it all the time. It's available for me. I just say just queer and trans people because this generally covers everything.
What do you think fuels your passion and your creativity?
My people. Like, I love Black people. Like, I love Black people. I love film, but I love Black people. Like, I love Black people. I was always a film nerd growing up. Like, I would sit and watch every movie. You know how you get the little DVDs? I would watch every disc that came in the damn DVD, the interviews, the behind the scenes, the everything.
Me too.
And I just, period. But I love music videos. I love Disney, but I just love Black people and I love the creativity we have. And I'm just like, all my, like, you see all these superhero movies and all this, that, and the third. And I'm like, I want them to be Black people. Like, I wish they were Black people. I want to see a Black trans Wonder Woman. I want to see a Black queer Iron Man. I want to see a lesbian James Bond. Like, I want to see all of these different things because that movie would be lit. But also it's just like they would just be we look so good on screen, not just seeing our skin on everything and the different hair combos we can come up with and just I
really absorb that though. Lesbian James Bond.
Wouldn't that be legendary? Giving like some semi vibes, so on they can give a little butch one day and a little soup, and then
that would
like
be so fucking cool. I might cut this part out because that's an idea. I don't want to get at nobody. I might have to cut that out.
I'm here for whatever can happen.
Fuck that shit.
We know Hollywood ain't about to make it happen.
Right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Listen, like I said, that's a great idea. I might cut that shit out. I'm like, wait, Black lesbian James Bond. Wait. That is,
trust me, that ain't nothing.
Because I do the same thing. Like I watch TV. Like one of my favorite shows to watch is Killing Eve, and I'm like, okay, I want to do this, but with Black people. You know what I'm saying? Like I always say, like, ask anybody around, ask the motherfucker that I live with. I'd be like, yo, what if it had Black people? And like I just be like, that's how my mind works. And I'm just like, I want this, but with the Blacks. That's what I would like. I would like this. Like, I could only imagine what Killing Eve would be like if we had an all Black cat. Like, you understand? Like, just, this is the way my mind works. So it's just like, yeah, we hear that.
Yeah, I want to see everything with Black people. Like, I just do. Like, I'm like, child, we're the most interesting. We're the most stylish and entertaining. Like, I want to see us do everything. Everything.
What do you want straight and gay people to know about trans and or non-binary individuals?
Nigga, we people. Like, like we're people. We're probably the freest. We're the freest.
Nigga, we people. Like that's the quote. That's it. That's it. That's the quote.
That's also like we're probably the most liberated and freest human beings you'll ever come across. And I would hope that instead of trying to read or instead of like being jealous or getting inspired to do violence, like you would just confront yourself on why you're feeling the same way and just come get free with us. Like, free yourself, my nigga. Free your fucking self. Yeah, and stop killing Black trans women. Like that's amazing.
That's not okay. Stop killing Black trans women.
Because again, like Black trans women have been saving the earth since the dawn of
world.
time.
Yes.
Have been liberating each and every one of you. And again, it's never about whether or not you know or not, because that's up to their discretion. But I promise you, one has saved your life. And maybe instead of some of the other probably more problematic thoughts you're having, how about you wake up every day and ask, which Black trans woman saved your life today? I bet it was one. Maybe it was a couple. Oh, and also, everybody ain't no goddamn sex worker, but also sex work is work, and it's valid as fuck, and it should be, we should figure out how we can make that more safe for people to do if that's what they choose. And again, for the people who have issues with such a profession, they should ask why they buy anything else. Because again, like you said, everything else is about sex, except for the people who want to actualize it for themselves.
That's true.
And sex work is the oldest profession in the history of the world anyway. So let's stop playing. Like niggas ain't trade women for chickens and shit.
Niggas been fucking for a long time and trading off pussy for all types of different things. Pussy and all other words, all other things.
They've been trading off sex for everything. I know what people don't like about sex work is that the people who are, especially sex work as it is now, that the people who are selling the thing are in absolute control of what happens, and they don't like that. They prefer to just get what they want, and it's like, no, this isn't Burger King, nigga. You cannot have it your way. There are rules, regulations, and I hope there are condoms.
Oh man! Last question for you. So, in the time of Pan's Labyrinth and quarantines and all these things,
not Pan's Labyrinth.
Pan's Labyrinth. That's what the fuck it feel like. That's what it feel like.
The niggas have to chalk, so I can chalk my ass out here.
That's the question I always like to ask people is because inquiring minds want to know, but do you have a quarantine bag or Corona boo? Any of those things?
I have a couple.
Pearls. Clutch.
Don't clutch them. Listen, I'm very sexually liberated. I am very pro-ho. I believe I can fight for justice and be a hoe at the same time. Why the fuck not? I believe that the world is ending, climate change, all of this other stuff. I'm not going to.
The world is fucking ending. Like,
it was in Saudi Arabia the other day. Like, child, I don't have time to play.
It's not in Saudi Arabia.
It was snowing in Saudi Arabia the other day. Yeah, it was just, like Texas is going through everything Texas is going through. Like, baby, the earth has had enough of us. It's had enough of people. And so the world is ending, and child, there's so much more I want to experience and do this, that, and the third. And again, one thing I'm always going to do is center my pleasure and do what I like to do. And if I'm trying to fuck today, I'm going to do that. And child, there's no other significant I'm hoping that he comes when I move to Brooklyn, but I'm wait till I get there to see what's tea. And I hope he has a penthouse somewhere because I want to be bougie for a couple years.
I don't want to do this no more. All right. Thank you, Adrian.
Again,
I was like, I'm done.
Don't hate me. I like to be very specific about the shit I want to. I hope you are too. I hope you're not settling for that crusty nigga around the corner who live with his mama. I know the dick is good. However, there's nothing he's going to offer you in his life but more kids.
That's true. And it's funny. I had this conversation with somebody else. I'm like, as a former and reformed fuckboy,
no such thing, but go ahead.
There is a reform. Niggas can grow. It's called growth. You ain't seen it's growth. It's called growth. Motherfuckers that ain't got shit going for them have the best. Like the best. It don't get caught up. It don't get caught up. Listen to me.
Anything else?
Don't get caught up it ain't shit, nigga dick. All right. And or vagina or whatever. So. Don't do it.
I mean, that's the allure of the fuckboys and things like that, but that's why I have rules about them niggas. Like, you will always have to go home. You will always have to do it on my time, not on yours, and the third, a whole bunch of other things. But also, it's just like, child, I would hope that if you don't have no job, you're not paying nobody's rent, and you just walking around here being this ashy and bummy, that you could at least slang that thing. Because if you can't, then baby, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you.
Like I said, I'm a reformed fuckboy. I wasn't never a bum, but I did fuckboy things, and now I'm better.
Fuck nigga shit.
Yeah, I did a lot of fuck nigga shit, and like the sex is. I'm gonna shut up because I'm talking too much. But anyway, I'm cutting this part out too. Cut this part out too.
Like, don't you be on revisionist history now and shit. You say you was reformed, right? You reformed. Say to your past.
I posted what's funny is I posted something on my Instagram stories and it said niggas with good dick always want to ask you okay after sex. It's like, nigga, leave me alone. And I was like, and so I posted that, and like the amount of responses that I got prompted me to post again and be like, y'all get on my fucking nerves, but thank you. Guilty.
You asking that question, you like, you okay? Like, okay, first of all, you know that I can barely even think right now, but you being an asshole because you just you want your ego stroked real quick before you take your ass home.
Sometimes you just gotta ask for clarification. It's a checkup. You know, it's a temperature check. It's a temperature check. Sometimes you gotta know, like, I know what I did, but I just want to know. I want you to know that I know. No,
you want to hear it. You want to hear it.
Absolutely. I deserve praise.
Star at the end of class.
I deserve praise for the good work that I have done. I deserve praise for the good work that I have done. You damn Skippy. I would like my things. Let me have all of them. That's why I don't believe in
reform fuck niggas. See? What is understood does not have to be questioned.
And until you do. You good? All right. And ladies and gentlemen, we out. Thank you so much, Adrian, for jumping on the call, man. I really appreciate it. I'm out, man. We go. Yeah.